Hmm. So today we're reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter number 4, The Confidential Reasons for the Lord's Appearance. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This is text number 246. Jajapi amarase jagat rasasa radhara adhara rasa amakardevas. Jajapi amarase jagata jagat sarasa radhara adhara rasa amakardevas. Jajapi amarase jagat sarasa radhara adhara rasa amakardevas. Anyone else? Jajapi, although, amar, of me, rase, by the taste, jagat, the whole world, sarasa, is palatable, radhara, of Srimati Radharani, adhara ras, the taste of the lips, ama, me, karde, vasa, submissive. Translation. Although the entire creation is full of different tastes because of me, I am charmed by the nectarine taste of the lips of Srimati Radharani. Text number 247. Jajapi amar sparsh koiti nustitala radhikara sparsh amakorde sushitala. We don't have to read, you don't have to respond to every verse. And although my touch is cooler than 10 million moons, I'm refreshed by the touch of Srimati Radhika. E mate jagater sukhi ami hetu, Radhika rupa gun amara jivatu. Thus, although I am the source of happiness for the entire world, the beauty and attributes of Sri Radhika are my life and soul. E mata anubhav amara pratita, vichara dekiya jadi sab viparita. This way, my affection and feelings for Srimati Radharani may be understood, but on analysis, I find them contradictory. My eyes are fully satisfied when I look upon Srimati Radharani, but by looking upon me, she becomes even more advanced in satisfaction. So these are reflections of Lord Krishna on his beloved Srimati Radharani. This is a very confidential understanding. It's not meant for persons who are not perfect in devotional service. On our stage, we can hardly expect to understand these feelings of Krishna for Radharani. Yet, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is putting these in Chaitanya Charitamrita just so that we get an idea what was the confidential reason for the Lord to appear in this Kali Yuga in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The flute-like murmur of the bumblebee, of the bamboos rubbing against one another, steals Radharani's consciousness, for she thinks it to be the sound of my flute, and she embraces a tamal tree, mistaking it for me. I have gotten the embrace of Sri Krishna, she thinks, so now my life is fulfilled. Thus, she remains immersed in pleasing Krishna, taking the tree in her arms. When a favorable breeze carries to her the fragrance of my body, she is blinded by love and tries to fly into that breeze. When she tastes the betel chewed by me, she merges in an ocean of joy and forgets everything else. Even with hundreds of mouths, I cannot express the transcendental pleasure she derives from my association. Seeing the luster of her complexion and our pastimes together, I forget my own identity in happiness. The sage Bharat has said that the mellows of a lover and beloved are equal, but he does not know the mellows of my Vrindavan. Purport. According to expert sexologists like Bharat Muni, the male and the female enjoy equally in material sexual pleasure. But in the spiritual world, the relationships are different, although this is unknown to the mundane experts. So, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving us clear instruction that this relationship between Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan is not like the relationship of boys and girls in this material world. But in order to understand that, one has to be pure, right? Therefore, for persons who are not pure to try to meditate and delve very deeply into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, it's not advised. Although Srila Prabhupada has given us the Krishna book, and in the Krishna book are the Ras-Lila pastimes there, where Krishna is dancing with the gopis. But at the same time, if you read Krishna book, Prabhupada is explaining very clearly about the transcendental nature of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and what devotees can actually understand it. Right? This is not, this is very confidential to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And what we see here in this material world, the relationships between men and women and boys and girls in this material world, these are but a perverted reflection of that true relationship, the real relationship between Radha and Krishna and his devotees in Vrindavan. So the question is how to become purified so that we can understand. And that's the process, don't sit like that. And that's the process of sadhana bhakti. Right? Rising early, taking bath, attending Mangalarti, right? Chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and Kirtan, chanting our japa, listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is called sadhana bhakti. And by this sadhana bhakti, one becomes purified. The anarthas, the unwanted things that are within the heart become purified. They become taken away. In other words, we have desires. The living entity must desire something. It's not that we can become desireless. The impersonalists are trying to become free from desire. No desire. But as long as something is living, it has desires. The living entity has desires. In the pure state, the living entity's desire is to please Krishna, to satisfy Krishna. Right? That is the constitutional position of the living entity as the eternal servant of Krishna. Jiver Swarupai Nitya Krishna Das. Eternally, they're a servant of Krishna. But somehow or another, when the living entity, by misuse of his independence, minute independence, right? He comes in contact with the three modes of material nature, and that original love for Krishna badli ho jata hai. It becomes changed, right? Just like if you have nice milk, but if you put something sour, what happens? It becomes curd, right? So, in the same way, when the living entity who has originally love for Krishna comes in contact with this material world, that original love for Krishna becomes changed. And so the living entity is in the material world looking for that relationship that he has with Krishna, but in so many perverted forms. And the more he struggles to establish that relationship in the material world, the more complicated it gets. It can become very complicated, right? You have a man's attraction for a woman, right? And nowadays there's man's attraction for man, and so many different things. It's hard to keep track of it, right? LPQ, the letters just become more and more, right? As Kali Yuga goes on, right? Because these relationships are not satisfying. Not satisfying. Not satisfied. So new, different, trying to chew the chewed, puna punaschar vitacharananam, in different ways. But what everyone is looking for is that relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. And each devotee, each living entity has a very unique relationship with Krishna. I've mentioned this before, but it's a point that strikes me. And we can understand that everybody in this room has got a hand, right? You all got a hand? You got an index finger, right? Everybody's index finger, the fingerprints, the lines are different. Everyone. That's why when someone performs a crime, they take their fingerprints, right? How many people have been fingerprinted here by the police? On Sankirtan? Yeah. Me too. So that way, if you ever did some other crime, they can take out your fingerprints from the crime scene and know that it's you. Right? Just see Krishna's creation. Everybody's fingerprint is unique. Everybody's face is unique, right? In the same way, we all have this unique relationship with Krishna. Very special. It's my relationship with Krishna. You have your relationship with Krishna. And Krishna is known as Rasaraj. Rasaraj. He's the king of the rasas. Right? He wants to relish that unique relationship that he has with each and every one of his living entities. Right? But we're ignoring him. We're not entering into that relationship. We're blocking it by trying to find some relationship in this material world. But we're not becoming satisfied. But Krishna is patiently waiting. You know the example from the Upanishads? There's two birds in the tree. One bird is witnessing the activities of the other bird who's trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree. The tree is compared to the material body, and the two birds are the Atma and the Paramatma, the living entity. So through so many different lifetimes, the Lord has come with us in the form of Paramatma. And He's waiting patiently. So when a living entity becomes thoroughly frustrated with trying to establish some false relationship in this material world and decides the living entity has had enough, now I'll use this lifetime, engage in devotional service, and reestablish my lost relationship with Krishna. That's when Krishna helps. He sends devotees, right? A kirtan party comes by. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. And the person thinks, oh, that's nice, right? Just that little bit of appreciation can start their devotional service. Right? Ado Shraddha. That's nice. Appreciating the activities of the devotees. That can begin their devotional service. So, as the person associates with devotees, it gives up unwanted habits, anartha navitasya. They develop firm faith, nishtya, and it goes up, right? Bhava, prema. So we want to climb the ladder. We don't want to climb the corporate ladder. Isme kuch fayda nahi hai. What is the value of climbing the corporate ladder? Huh? There's no value in that. That's not the real ladder. That's again the shadow ladder, climbing the corporate ladder. Huh? The real ladder, the Bhakti Lata Bij. Sometimes in the village, there grows the vine on the side of the hut. You know, in the village they have mud huts or grass huts, and the vine grows up. Right? So the Bhakti Lata Bij is compared like that vine, right? It's growing. And the watering process, what is the watering process? Hearing and chanting, right? So when the kripa is very small, the gardener has to be careful because weeds can come. And then when the weeds grow, they can choke out the kripa. Right? The plant can be choked out by the weeds. Therefore, the gardener has to be very careful to pull out the weeds. Right? Why? Because that creeper, that vine that's growing, it grows and grows and grows all the way out of this material universe, past the different coverings. Bhumerapo Nalovayu, there's different coverings in this universe. And each one is 10 times thicker than the other one. You know, earth and then water, it's each progressively thicker and thicker. Right? But the creeper of devotional service is so powerful that it can penetrate even those coverings and grow. Just like the vine that's growing on the side of the hut. And when it finally gets to the top and it gets some solid base, then you can get Loki or Sim. What do they call it in Hindi? Sim? Property. Corella. Right? Corella. Right? So what is that solid base? That solid base is firm faith. First of all and foremost, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I mean, being Indian, having faith that Krishna is God, it's not a big stretch for anyone, you know? You celebrated Janmashtami, everybody in their house, right? So, if, you know, Krishna is God, you can accept that pretty easily. Right, Ramru? But to accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That takes some work, right? That takes a special faith. Right? And how to develop that faith? Well, he's given the process. And the process is Sankirtan. The Sankirtan movement. The chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wants us to understand what are the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. That's his desire. But it has to be our desire also. And right now we're dealing with so many unwanted desires within the heart. Anarthas. Artha means something that's necessary. Anartha means unnecessary things in the heart. So, developing that faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by performing Sankirtan, this is the process. And just to give you an example of strong faith, I want to tell a story. Now, you know, some devotees have heard this story before, but I haven't told the story in a very long time. I don't know, maybe Ramrup Prabhu heard this story. I don't know, maybe not. But I think it exemplifies the kind of faith that's required in Srila Prabhupada and in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to get to that platform. So you want to hear the story? Okay. It's a Sankirtan story, right? So this is maybe 1975, and in the St. Louis temple where I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, we were going to go to a concert and sell books right after the Sunday feast. The Sunday feast was like in the evening, and so right after that, we put on our karmi clothes, as we used to call it in those days. We got our books, and we were going to go to a concert and sell Srila Prabhupada's books. Because at these concerts, there was a lot of young people would come and hear, and we'd go there and sell books to them. So I noticed at the Sunday feast, and at the Sunday feast, usually it was young people, student-type people that would come to the Sunday feast. They would chant and dance and take prasadam, right? And we'd have at least 50 young people. But I noticed that at this particular Sunday feast, there were some older people, We didn't get that many older people that would come. But they were older, and I noticed. And one guy had a neck brace. So it just struck my mind. I didn't really think much about it. And we went to go downtown to the concert. So myself, I should introduce first, one devotee named Livedarshan, one devotee named Urakram Das, and myself, 3 of us. We were going to the concert. We get down there, we parked the van, we filled up our book bags with books, and we're going into the concert. We're walking down the side of the sidewalk. And then all of a sudden, this big black luxury car, it's called a Cadillac. Now he knows what a Cadillac is, but you all might not know what a Cadillac is. Cadillac in America is kind of like a Mercedes-Benz in Germany, Mercedes-Benz, right? Expensive. So in America, it's Cadillac, big, expensive car. And these 5 men jump out of the car. And they grab Livedarshan. And before we could blink an eye, he was in the back seat of the car in a headlock by one of the men. And I'm thinking, and I turned to Urakram to ask him what we should do, and Urakram is gone. He's running across the lawn. He's nowhere, right? So then I'm thinking what to do. By that time, the other men had gotten in the car except for one. And he was looking at me. I was looking at him. He was backing up to get, and I knew if he got in the car, that's it. They're going to drive off with their Livedarshan. So I'm thinking what to do. And then all of a sudden he pulls out nunchucks. You know nunchucks? It's 2 wooden sticks, and in the middle is a chain. It's an Asian weapon, right? And I knew devotees, they used to practice with nunchucks, and they really didn't know how to use them. And I thought, maybe this guy's just showing the nunchucks, and he don't know how to use it, right? So my plan was to grab him. If he couldn't get in the car, if I grabbed him, then, we could save the day maybe. So, and anyway, when I went to grab him, he went with the nunchucks like this. And then I began to think, well, maybe he does know how to use it. So I didn't know what to do. Then I just started to shout, police, police, police. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 2 police cars come up. One goes in front of the Cadillac, and one goes behind the Cadillac. And I'm shouting, they're kidnapping him. They're kidnapping him. They can see in the back, Durlab's in a headlock. Right? So the police see that. They pull out their guns. They put the guns on and say, all right, get out of the car. And I thought, oh, great. Right? Just then, one guy comes walking along in a suit and a tie in a briefcase, right? And he starts talking to the cops. Then the cops look a little bewildered. They don't really know what to do. And they say, well, we're going to have to go down to the station. So we're all down in the station. They're inside with the cops and this guy with the suit and these other men. And after some time, we called up the temple and told them what was happening. And after some time, they come out, and the police tell us, look, they got papers for him, this Durlaba. So we're going to have to let him take him. And what it was is that those 5 men, well, one of them, 4 men were private detectives, and one of them was Durlaba's father, who had hired them to get his son away from the Hare Krishnas. Right? And he had these papers saying that he was suffering from hypoglycemia and he had to go to the hospital or something. Right? He had some kind of legal document. So there wasn't really much we could do at that point. They took Durlabha, and they told him that they shouldn't go out of the state, but they did. They went across state lines, and they were taking him to various places and trying to get him to give up Krishna consciousness. So later on, Livedarshan Prabhu told me that he was resisting. They were trying to make him stop chanting, and he would chant, and they would just become more angry, right? So he thought, let me pretend that I've given up Krishna consciousness. And they had him handcuffed to the bed at night even. So he acted like he was what they called deprogrammed. There were these persons that were expert at trying to get devotees to give up Krishna consciousness, and they were called deprogrammers. So these deprogrammers were working on Durlabha Darshana, and he started to act like he was deprogrammed, right? He had given up Krishna consciousness. And so they thought that they were successful now in deprogramming Durlabha Darshana. So what they did was they called his ex-wife, right? And they put him together. And later on I learned from him, but I didn't know at the time, but she actually helped him, right? She helped him get away from the deprogrammers. Because when they left him alone, him and his ex-wife, he threw open the window, jumped out the window, and ran away. And he went to the temple in Boston, the time he was in Boston. And so the temple president in Boston helped him, moved him around to different places. And then when we got a court order, a habeas corpus court order, then he could come back to St. Louis and again engage in his devotional service. So I'm telling the story just to show the devotees' level of faith and what they had to go through in those days, some devotees, to keep the Krishna consciousness, right? And many, many, many years later, I met Durlabha Darshana. We kind of went out of contact. I came to India. You know, he was there. He got married. He had kids. His father, by the way, was a very wealthy man, very wealthy man. And of course, when Durlabha got married and had children, then he wanted to be with his grandchildren, and everything kind of worked out. And Durlabha Darshana bought a farm somewhere in North Carolina. And he's still a devotee even to this day, Durlabha Darshana. So faith, I tell the story just to show that you have to have faith in Krishna. And Krishna is going to test our faith, right? To make sure that we have strong faith. And Krishna never tests the devotees more than the devotees can actually pass the test. The test is tailor-made for us, and if we pass it, then we go to the next level. And if we see in our lives things that just keep happening again and again, it's to let us know that we haven't passed that particular level. You know, like we want to do a Bhakti Shastri, and then we want to go to a Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Sarvabhauma, right? So we might be stuck at Bhakti Shastri, and so we have to again and again get the same test from Krishna. But in any event, the goal, keep the goal in mind. The goal is that we want to come to this level of understanding the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. And you can't storm your way in, right? You have to go through proper sadhana, proper purification, proper sankirtan, by performing sankirtan and developing faith, shraddha. Then you can go to the next level. So I'll just finish reading the chapter, and if there's any questions, then we'll try to answer them. The happiness I feel when meeting Radharani is 100 times greater than the happiness I get from meeting others. My dear auspicious Radharani, your body is a source of all beauty. Your red lips are softer than the sense of immortal sweetness. Your face bears the aroma of a lotus flower. Your sweet words defeat the vibrations of the cuckoo, and your limbs are cooler than the pulp of sandwood. All my transcendental senses are overwhelmed in ecstatic pleasure by tasting you, who are completely decorated by beautiful qualities. Purport. This verse, spoken by Lord Krishna to Radha, is recorded in the Lalita Madhava 9.9 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Her eyes are enchanted by the beauty of Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa. Her body thrills and pleasures at his touch. Her ears are always attracted to his sweet voice. Her nostrils are enchanted by his fragrance, and her tongue hankers for the nectar of his soft lips. She hangs down her lotus-like face, exercising self-control only by pretense, but she cannot help showing the external signs of her spontaneous love for Lord Krishna. Purport. This Srila Rupa Goswami describes the countenance of Radharani. Considering this, I understand that some unknown mellow in me controls the entire existence of my captivator, Srimati Radharani. I'm always eager to taste the joy that Radharani derives from me. In spite of various efforts, I have not been able to taste it, but my desire to relish that pleasure increases as I smell its sweetness. Formerly, I appeared in the world to taste mellows, and I tasted the mellows of pure love in various ways. I taught devotional service that springs from the devotee's spontaneous love by demonstrating it in my pastimes. But these three desires of mine were not fulfilled, not satisfied, for one cannot enjoy them in a contrary position. Unless I accept the luster of the ecstatic love of Sri Radhika, these three desires cannot be fulfilled. Therefore, assuming Radharani's sentiments and bodily complexion, I have descended to fulfill these three desires. In this way, Lord Krishna came to a decision. Simultaneously, the time came for the incarnation of the age. At that time, Sri Advaita was earnestly worshiping him. Advaita attracted him with his loud calls. First, Lord Krishna made his parents and elders appear, then Krishna himself, with the sentiments and complexion of Radhika, appeared in Navadvip. Like the full moon from the womb of Mother Sachi, which is like an ocean of pure milk. Meditating on the lotus feet of Sri Rupa, I have thus explained the 6th verse. I can support the explanation of these two verses, 5 and 6 of the 1st chapter, with a verse by Srila Rupa Goswami. Lord Krishna desired to taste the limitless nectarine mellows of the love possessed by one of his multitude of loving damsels, Sri Radha, and so he assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya. He has tasted that love while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. May that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. This is the 3rd verse of the 2nd Chaitanya Yastika of Srila Rupa Goswami Stavamala. Thus, the auspicious invocation of the essential nature of the truth of Lord Chaitanya and the need for his appearance has been set forth in 6 verses. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-Lila, 4th chapter, describing the confidential reasons for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments, questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, how to pull out the weeds from the Bhakti Lata?
One of the main ways to be able to recognize the weeds is to render very submissive and menial service to the spiritual master. In that way we'll be able to, by his mercy, identify what are the unwanted things that are growing within the heart. Service, rendering service. And we have different kinds of services to do, right? You have Nam Seva, chanting the holy name, that's also service. Right? And we have other services in the temple. Right? So by all of these service, in a humble mood, Krishna will help us. The devotees will also help us. You have to stay in association with devotees. Prabhupada clearly says, if you think you become Krishna conscious outside the association of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, you're simply living in an illusion. Because it's only the devotees, one, they're going to remind you of Krishna. Non-devotees, they're never going to remind you of Krishna. And two, they'll be the first ones to say, hey Prabhu, you're in Maya. Right? So in that way we'll become free from our anarthas. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sundar Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So, sometimes we see that the way you are telling about the faith, that how the devotees have faith and in Krishna, and then they go through different varieties of problems and things like that. So, sometimes I see that different devotees have different level of faith even before coming to Krishna consciousness, or so it appears that they have got that because of their past life or whatever, and we feel that we are restricted by our previous faith, and now how we progress from where we are and going ahead, that becomes like, because sometimes somebody may say that, Prabhuji, I don't have that faith the way you have, so then that becomes another excuse of not going ahead.
Not having faith should be impetus for developing more faith, not to be used as an excuse not to go ahead. One person can use one thing in one way, and another person will use the same thing in another way. Yes, we don't have faith. We don't have that strong faith. But that's not a reason to give up, is it? That's a reason to become more determined. And the Lord, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made his process for developing faith very simple. It's not complicated. Right? Chant Hare Krishna, dance, take prasadam. Now, if you can't even do that, who can help that person? Right? Simply joyful. Kevala anandakanda. Such a joyful process. But if we're unfortunate, if we get caught up in some unfortunate circumstance, then it can be delayed. But once started, one will attain to the ultimate goal. It just may take some time. That's why one has to be careful. If you're expert with a razor, a straight razor, you can get a good shave. But if you're inattentive, you can cut yourself and there'll be bloodshed, right? So devotional service is like that. You, therefore, should pick your association. Right? Associate with devotees that you perceive have that faith and you want to come to that level. how do you associate? By hearing, by rendering service. Then it'll be possible. On our own effort, we come so far, but when we get help from the Lord, then very quickly we can make progress. So Srila Prabhupada clearly told us, he was always insisting that we do book distribution. Why? Because it's the quickest way to make advancement in devotional service, by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. He describes how his Guru Maharaj would glorify even an insignificant member of the Gaudiya Math that went across from Mayapur to Navadvip and sold a few 10 paisa magazines, right? He would be so happy with him, right? So we can take a cue from this, how to develop faith, how to develop strong faith, so that we can make quick advancement towards the ultimate goal. We're praying to Srimati Tulsi Devi every day for the goal, isn't it? We want to be in the service of Radha and Krishna. We want to be in the groves of Vrindavan so that we can see Radha and Krishna. Right? Please take me under your shelter, make me your maidservant. It's very clear what the goal is, but sometimes we get diverted. We think about other things. So staying in association with devotees, performing regular sadhana can keep us focused on the goal. Yes, Ramrup, anything?
Hare Krishna. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, one's advancement in devotional service depends on Purvajanma Samskar.
What's that?
One's advancement in devotional service depends on past life's impressions.
Yeah.
So that is also plays big some part in for a devotee to develop faith. If he has already performed some devotional service in his last life, then automatically he has faith.
Yeah, somebody may come to the process of devotional service and display a lot of advancement in devotional service.
Yeah.
Attachment to Krishna, faith in Lord Chaitanya. So Rupa Goswami is saying from a previous life he performed these activities. But also at the same time, one may not have any past life credits or very few past life
Then
credits. And he can still make quick advancement in devotional service by becoming very determined to reach the goal. So both things are there.
Yeah, sometimes some devotees they struggle because they didn't have proper past life impressions and then proper association in this life. The proper association also is very important.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada says that just to encourage the devotees that so many lifetimes we did so many things. All these things we did before, right? Made money and had families, all these things we did before. Now this one lifetime, dedicated to serving Krishna and become serious. And Srila Prabhupada said that if you're sincere and you struggle, even though there's so many difficulties, tatena kampam sushishikshimano, Krishna will be merciful and you'll make it back home, back to Godhead. Any other questions? Yes. Microphone in the back. all the way to the back.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. So Prabhuji, my question is regarding the faith. So as we are discussing that faith should be firm faith. So there are two types of faith, like Shraddha and then Nishtha, which is the firm faith, strong determination, and obviously it will lead us to attain the goal. But there are examples in the Shastra itself which is like, though the devotees, those having that faith, they have also fluctuated in their life, just like we say Dhruv Maharaj. So he started killing these yakshas also after taking Krishna's darshan, then Bharat Maharaj. So my question is like, what steps we should do after gaining that firm faith in our life? What steps and what measures we should take? Hare Krishna.
Just keep doing the same thing. Getting up early, chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, read Srila Prabhupada's books, take prasadam, right? Associate with the devotees. You don't need to grow forearms and, pretend that you're on some platform you're not on, or find some Babaji in Vrindavan to hear from, or you don't need to do that. Prabhupada told the devotees, you don't even need to go out of the four walls of the Krishna Balaram temple. Everything is there. Sri Sri Krishna Balaram. Here we have SriSriRadhaRasbihari, right? You have the holy name. And as you perform your devotional service and you develop some faith, you'll get more faith. Krishna will arrange things. Doesn't mean he won't test us. He's going to test us. He'll test our faith. But we'll be able to pass that test by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the association of the devotees. There's one more question in the back.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, अभी आप बता रहे थे कि भक्ति में आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रभुपाद जी के पुस्तकों के वितरण के ऊपर आप बता रहे थे। आपने बताया कि भक्ति सिद्धांत महाराज जब कोई ब्रह्मचारी एक भी पुस्तक वितरण करके आता तो बहुत प्रसन्न होते थे, लेकिन आज के डेट में ऐसा बताया जाता है कि अगर कोई व्यक्ति पुस्तक वितरण करने के लिए जाएगा तो उसके बिगड़ने का खतरा लगता है लोगों को, कि पुस्तक वितरण करने के लिए जाएगा तो बिगड़ जाएगा, भक्ति से दूर चला जाएगा। तो इसको प्रभु जी किस तरह समझा जाए? वास्तव में पुस्तक वितरण करने से लोग बिगड़ते हैं कि भक्ति में प्रोग्रेस करते हैं, ये मुझे जरा समझ में नहीं आता है।
Well, it's certainly not my experience that someone who goes out and does book distribution becomes worse. Not my experience. My experience is in my own life and seeing other devotees that if they engage in book distribution, they become better. But, I also saw that Prabhupada had servants, personal servants, right? But sometimes they went into Maya. And they had the personal association of Srila Prabhupada. Right? So Maya is very powerful. And whatever our service is, we always have to be cautious. Right? We always have to be cautious. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India with his servant, Krishna Das, right? And he got lured away by the Bhattaharis. Right? So Prabhupada mentions in that purport that even if you have the personal association of the spiritual master, still you have to be cautious. You have to be cautious. You have to be careful. If you you have to be aware of your own mentality. Right? Maya is so powerful that she plants things in our brain just to take us away from bhakti. And we think it's a good thing. Right? Some negative concept about others or whatever. And we're meditating on that. And then we lose sight of the goal. So distributing Srila Prabhupada's books is always good. And it will help us. At the same time, we have to be cautious because Maya has many different tricks to make us not be satisfied with bhakti and try to take us away. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Did somebody translate that for you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Very wonderful class, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, you mentioned that Prabhupada given so much emphasis on book distribution, and devotees are very enthusiastically doing this book distribution. Okay. But we also see that some devotees have some different service attitude. They are not going to book distribution, but they have on other services. And they are very enthusiastically doing, okay. And even you see Prabhupada, many disciples, Prabhupada given instruction to some different disciples according to their skill or strength, okay. And accordingly they are doing well. So now my question is suppose I am not able to do book distribution nicely, but I am engaging in other services, okay. In
doing other services is also book distribution. Why? Because it's all in support of the preaching. The pujari is dressing Krishna very nicely. Why? To inspire the devotees to go out and preach and to be inspired to bring people to see Krishna in the temple. So one might not be doing directly book distribution, but everything is in support of the preaching. Right? Supports it. So directly going out is very good, and indirectly supporting the preaching is also very good. It's good. Okay? All right. All right, thank you very much for listening. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande.